Peace, 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 royalties. Zemirah Scott here. And today has been one of those days where it's pure emotion. I think a lot can be said right now of the climate of our environment, but I'm not on here today to talk about that. I think enough is circulating where if you really don't know what's going on at this point, you may truly be living under the rock, or you may be a part of the problem. And so I say all of that with love and compassion, because we're getting to a point where now we have to become solutionary beings on our own. We can't keep depending on other organizations to really suffice for what our life is worth. I am oftentimes disheartened by the lack of accountability that some people make, not just politicians. I don't even want to get into that. That's not what I'm here for. But just accountability people make in our own circles. There have been a lot of things that have happened over the last couple weeks that I've had to stay silent about. There's been a lot of things that have happened the last couple months that I can't express evenly or safely on these types of platforms. So certain things I know and certain things I think we all know, but it's just we have to be mindful about how we're going to go about delivering that information. I was having a conversation with my mentor the other day, and I was letting him know that it's a little hard for me to continue with business as usual, especially feeling so deeply about everything that's happening around us. And he reminded me that I can turn what I feel as pain into a passion, and I can turn it into a profit. And I don't want to profit off of Black death. There's a lot of people that already do that. There's a lot of companies that will profit off of the life and death of Black Americans or Black people in general. It's a marketing strategy. There's a whole TED Talk based on it. Like, that's really a real thing. There's a whole TED Talk about it.
We know that police officers use force more with Black people than with white people. And we are learning the role of 911 calls in this. Thanks to preliminary research from the Center for Policing Equity, we're learning that in some cities, most of the interaction between cops and citizens is due to 911 calls, not officer-initiated stops. And most of the violence, the use of force by police on citizens, is in response to those calls.
For those who are like, Z, you're always so positive, you know, what's happening, how can we help? You can help by continuing to pray for me. You can help by continuing to support anything that I eventually put out. You can help by reaching out to people in your circle that are Black and brown and ask them if they're okay. I will say this, as I said it before, just because they have the same hue does not mean they feel the same. Some Black and brown folks are not conditioned primarily to feel this type of empathy when people are dying that look like them. Some of them are really numb to this shit. Like, it's not it's not something that's just unbelievable not to feel. But
if it's a sustained trauma, then the impact of that is also sustained. When we look at multi-generational trauma, we're looking at people who are maybe victims of natural disasters and their families and their children, and generations of folks who have experienced war. And we know that there are residual mental, emotional, traumatic impact. And what I did was I started to look at the African American experience, starting with slavery, as a real clear, long enduring trauma. So I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African American experience.
I think because we're in a situation right now where we have to be solutionary beings for our own establishments and communities, I think we should start looking at it from a much bigger picture. Is this really race related, or is this really about who can be a survivor in a system that is not based to necessarily improve your life? it's something here to navigate you, but you are the person who is responsible for the solution. Everything that's happening right now is just a response to how the energy in which we're giving every single day. I'm saying this right now because I don't know the next time I'm really going to go back live on social media. I say it often, but sometimes my heart just can't even take it. Peace, brothers out here. Being solutionary, I feel like it's one of the most opportunist ways for us to navigate this hurt, this feeling, this pain. I think us being a little more knowledgeable about how we can still heal ourselves as we're watching things happen every single day to the people who look like us is very important. Peace, Jasmine. Sister Jasmine, peace. I think it's a beautiful thing in a time right now for self-reflection. And the more that we're feeding into the narratives that are being spewed back at us, the more that we sometimes even lose ourselves. I cannot go back to business as usual. And there's some part of me that's stating that I'm okay with that right now. I'm so okay with that right now. Because there's something else happening that's much bigger than what I could ever deliver. When we focus on ourselves, when we focus on the rehabilitation that one must take in order to even rise to the next level. Everybody talks about the next level. Everyone talks about what the real solutions and problems are. But the footsteps based behind that is the real solution. You have to determine what's going to work for you. Are you going to be okay living in a society that openly kills and murders black people? Or are you going to be okay in a society where you have chosen to create your own environments and move away from these places that sometimes and often will bind and suppress you from your thoughts to your reality around you? Pick and choose what you want to do. But just know that nothing you do is set in vain. And anyone who is silent about things that happen that really affect how you are as a person, mentally, physically, and emotionally, as a just human being. Forget the vessel that we're in. As a human being, pay attention to that silence, because that silence makes such a deafening noise, and it makes it very clear in the positions in which they play in your life. So I'm just leaving this to say, no one has the decision to take away someone's life. No one. No one has the right to determine whether or not someone was valid for doing it. The more that I see that people do this, the more that I question, okay, so you're making it okay for us to murder your children. Got you. Awesome. Noted. But nobody wants to feel that way. You want to feel safe in the spaces that you create. So be mindful about the spaces that you create, and be mindful about the people you share them with. This is such a vulnerable time for me, and I never knew it until now. Like, I never knew how protecting my space was such an important thing until this very moment that I'm seeing people around me drop like flies, and I don't know who's next. We are not hashtags. We are humans. We have lives. We breathe. We speak. We see. We want to experience joy, safety, privilege, prosperity, and abundance, just like every single other human here. I'm begging you to open your eyes and to step back from your own prejudiced ways, in which we may have. Some people called me prejudiced the other day because I'm so loud about the voice that I have when it comes to black and brown folks. And I said, if that makes me that, then I will always be that. If that separates me from other people not being just as loud, I will always be that. But humans matter. Life matters. Our solutions that we're going to set for ourselves matter. And no solution or problem is bigger than the other, because if it's a problem, that means it needs to be solved. So I'm leaving you this here now. There will be more hashtags. There will be things that we can't control. And I think we're coming to such a beautiful time as this to find what works for us. to find what really works for us. Not what works for your political agendas, not what works for your parties, not what works for anything else other than just knowing you are a human. You are here to love. You are here to expand, and you have a right to live. No one has that right to take that away from you, but you are responsible for protecting your greatest asset, which is you. And if you know your environment is filled with turmoil, find a way to create peace. If you know your environment is filled with that, find a way to protect yourself, protect your mind, protect your family. I love you, Gloriana. Thank you. So, as these non-planned tears are rolling down, just know that your life matters. Every black and brown person that's watching this, know that. If you become a hashtag, we will burn this whole fucking city down. Know that. Know that you are loved beyond anything that I could ever imagine. And I want you to know that nobody has the right to determine whether or not you get a chance to explain that. You were gifted that here. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I want you to be so solutionary. I want you to take this time to not go through business as usual, to get back to your regular life. We cannot afford that. That is so costly for our community right now. Take this time to love on yourself. Take this time to heal yourself. Take this time to step back and reflect. Take this time for you. Protect yourself, protect your mind, protect your family. Know that. I love you. Peace.